Right, so before we get on with today's video, I just want to show you all something really quickly. So I have a brace now. I've had it on for almost a week. It is a little bit painful. I am spitting a lot and I am lisping a lot. So we're all just going to have to grin and bear it today. I have to deal with this for 2 years and you guys might have to deal with it for 2 years as well. So let's just pretend that I'm not spitting everywhere and that I'm not looking like I'm Darla from Finding Nemo. I just wanted to address the elephant in the room before we began the video because this is obviously a massive change from my last video. So now that I've said all that, I think it's time that we get into today's video. Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be discussing and talking about and ranking, most importantly, all of the Bratz lines that came out this year. We're going to be talking about the collector editions, we're going to be talking about the playline releases, we're going to be talking about the collaborations, but what we're not going to be talking about is the recent Charms and Pop Stars leaks that came out a couple of days ago. I think one of them does have a 2025 release window. Even though numerically they might be released in 2025, spiritually they have not been, so we won't be talking about them. And we're not going to be talking about the Bratzies, and we're not going to be talking about the Bratz babies. Not that there's anything wrong with those releases, but I'm talking about the main doll line itself. I just thought this would be a really fun little video to do, just because I feel like Bratz has been slowly making its way back into pop culture over the past few years. We've had the Instagram going off for ages. They've been making shorts, loads of really nostalgic posts and stuff like that. And then we've had some releases last year, and I think this year has been the actual kickoff of Bratz being like, we're coming back full force. We're going to release loads of things. We've got loads of collaborations, loads of playline stuff, their own web series and stuff like that. So this is basically almost like the starting line for Bratz's latest reboot, and I just thought it'd be fun to have a little discussion about what I think about all of them and bring you guys along for the ride. Now that I've said all that, really quick disclaimer: if you watch my content, you will probably know that I am very hot and cold with opinions. I either really care about something or I don't care, and there's kind of not much of an in-between. Luckily, a lot of the Bratz releases this year I do actually feel things about, but a couple of these I probably won't really talk that much in depth about because I don't really have a huge feeling towards them. But most of them I will actually have a conversation and talk about outfits and how I feel and quality. I'm not necessarily going to be talking about price point and stuff like that, but loads of different things factor into why I feel the way I do and where they've ranked on the list. These are all my opinion, so if you disagree with any of my rankings on this list, please feel free to write down below all your own rankings for the releases this year, because I would love to see what everybody else thinks. Now that I've got that ridiculously long intro out the way, I think it's time that we get into the list. So I've got my laptop in front of me, so I'm going to be looking down a lot when I'm talking about these releases. So please bear with me and let's get on with it. So in our last position, also known as number 14, it is the Very Merry dolls. Now, these are meant to be like a little holiday budget line. For these dolls, they're not really, I'm not the target audience. I think they're meant to be more for kids, and maybe there are some adult collectors that really like these dolls, but for me, the outfits are super simple. The theme isn't really that exciting, to be completely honest. Let's be real. They're just in little Santa outfits, which is nice, but yeah, they're not really up my alley and not something that I really feel moved enough to buy. So that's why they are last place. So at number 13, we have the Play Sports line. Now, I think with budget dolls, I think a lot of the time, really, most adult collectors are more attracted to the base doll more than the actual fashions and things like that. Now, there are some Bratz sports dolls that I really like, but once again, I don't feel moved enough to buy these girls. I do think that the outfits look really cute. I really like that they've referenced the older, they're kind of almost like reproductions in a way, just with some changes and a bit of different quality. They are cute dolls. They're pretty, but they're just not for me. So yeah, they are number 13. At number 12 is a doll that I actually do quite like. There is a lot of things going on with this doll that make me be like, yeah, you know what, you're not really going to be anywhere near the top. So at number 12, I've got the Gentle Monster collaboration with Bratz, and I think this doll is called Jenna. I actually really like the idea of this doll, and I think the color scheme is really cool. I like the lavender purple with the silver, and I love the idea of the prosthetic body and arms. I think that is super cool, super futuristic, and I think this year Bratz has been kind of playing with that idea of futurism and fashion forwardness, which is really exciting to me as a collector. But the main thing about this doll is that it wasn't really readily available to Bratz collectors, and it was very expensive. Now, as I said, I'm not really going to necessarily talk about price points very much in this line, but I think that this release was kind of a little bit wonky for me. I feel like the Gentle Monster collab, at least from my perspective, even though a doll was involved, it didn't necessarily feel like to me that this was a collaboration for Bratz fans. It kind of felt like it was more of a collaboration for Gentle Monster fans. So this doll was packaged a couple of different ways, but I think the most important thing about this collaboration really was the glasses that they were selling, and the doll was kind of like a little bonus. It felt like the price point was too high and out of my range to buy, and then also it wasn't really readily available to anybody like in person or online, so I was never going to get her, and it's because of those factors. And even though I do actually really like this doll, she's found her way to number 12. Now, number 11 on this list I think is going to be controversial, because I do actually have quite a bit to say about this line. So coming in at number 11 is the Styling Girlies. Now, I feel like this line has aged quite badly very rapidly. The idea of styling, to me, just the word styling, I feel like I'm getting like mix and match and changing things up. Now, we know that the whole point of styling was because of the t-shirt gimmick that it came with, but to me the idea of styling does kind of like bring up this idea of like mixing and matching and changing things around and being creative with the doll. I think that the line isn't very cohesive, and to me lines don't necessarily have to be cohesive, but I think that the fashions are not great. I think that they're not cohesive in themselves, and I think that having the extra pieces doesn't really add much to a lot of these dolls. Now, I think that Yasmin is by far and away the best of the styling line. I think that her outfit is cohesive. It does work without the jacket. It looks nice. I think that her shoes are amazing. I think the skirt is amazing. I just think that she is number one of the styling line for me. The other girlies, I actually do really like Sasha. I'm not a huge fan of her fashion, and I don't really understand how she ended up like this. I think her artwork is actually really, really cute, but it doesn't make sense to me. But I will say that I think that Sasha has a really nice screening, really nice hairstyle, really pretty doll. The fashion is just kind of like not for me. I do like Chloe, but I think that I think it's her face. Her face is what really takes me out of this. I don't know what it is about Chloe and Jade's faces. They just don't look right. I feel like most of the screenings recently have been like AA+. They've been really, really good. But I think that from my perspective, it feels like Chloe and Jade's faces were not designed by the same people who've been doing like Scorching, Bratziversary, Fashion Pixies. There's something about them that looks a little bit uncanny. I think for me, Jade is by far and away the worst out of the styling line. I think her outfit is just wild. I do like Chloe more than Jade, but even then, I feel like her fashions aren't great. So that was a long-winded way of saying that is why styling is at number 11. So at number 10, we've got the Hello Kitty X Bratz collab. Now, I actually do quite like these dolls. They haven't been made available yet in the UK, so I haven't made the moves to try and buy one. I would probably get Yasmin, but whilst I do like them, at the same time, I'm not really a huge like Hello Kitty fan. This collab is kind of one of those things where it's just like it can move past me and I don't really care. I think the big thing about this collaboration that I know has been talked about quite a lot is the kind of like looming spectre of like, why originally did they decide to arbitrarily exclude Sasha? And I think that's kind of like tainted this release for a lot of people, and me included. I just think the optics of cutting Sasha, the only black character from the main four, out of the release, it just makes no sense. And I also don't understand how anyone in a boardroom or a meeting or whatever you want to call it thinks that, you know what, let's cut Sasha, that makes sense, and it doesn't seem exclusionary at all. I don't get it, and I think that because of that, it kind of like tainted this release. Now, whilst I do quite like all of these dolls, I'm not a huge fan of Sanrio. I don't really pay attention to anything that they've created really, other than like the Animal Crossing Sanrio villager collab that they had with the Amiibo cards. But apart from that, I'm not really moved enough to really want any of these girlies, so that is why they are at number 10. So at number 9, I have put Going Out, because I haven't bought any of these dolls. I do actually like the vast majority of these. I think that Yasmin, Sasha and Jade are great. I actually quite like Chloe, but I think she's not as good as the other girlies. I think if I was to buy one, it'd either be Yasmin or Sasha. And I think we've got so far into this year now that I don't think that I'm actually going to buy any of these. I think that facially, all of these girls are stunning. I like the fact that they are kind of like layered, so they all have some sort of like top, pants and a jacket. I think this is a really good line, to be completely honest. It's just, I kind of like my dolls with more of like a higher concept. So having a line where it's just like, the one thing I will say is that Bratz going out has been in my head for ages, and I find myself just like randomly like just doing it, and I don't know why. But yeah, I would say that I think for me as a doll collector, I like more of like a high concept, high fantasy kind of vibe. So a line where they're just going out it doesn't really like excite me that much. So I do like these dolls. Haven't felt like I needed to get one of these dolls, but yeah, they're cute, good screenings, nice quality clothes, just not something that I've been like desperate to run out and buy. Coming in at number 8, another collab, this time with Clueless. Now, I do like these dolls. I don't really have an attachment to the film. I think I've seen it like maybe once in my entire life. So I don't really feel particularly excited about this. I do think the fashions are really, really nice. I think Amber is probably my favorite, just because her fashion is just super, super camp. I really like the red like suit and the sailor hat. I think it's super, super cute. But with the other girls, Dion is probably my second favourite. I love her outfit and I really, really love her hat. And I think Cher's last. And I think, to be completely honest, I think Cher's last just because of the face. It doesn't look right, and in person it looks worse. The stock pictures are pretty kind to this doll, but I think in person she looks a lot worse than this. I don't know why they've gone with platinum blonde hair, because in the movie she has like more of like a brownie blonde colour. And their second outfits, I do really like their second outfits. I think that Amber's is probably the worst because it's a really, really simple dress, but Cher's is super cute, and I actually really like Dion's as well. But yeah, I don't have a huge amount of emotion for the film, and because of that, I don't really have a huge amount of emotion for these dolls. I can appreciate the quality, and I can appreciate how they've translated the actual like people into dolls. I do really like them, but not enough to actually want to buy any of these. I think if I did buy one, it'd probably be Amber for her first outfit. But yeah, they are a nice release. They do look like they're good quality, but I'm not really that bothered. Coming in at number 7 is the Lola Indigo x Bratz collab. Now, I have never listened to any Lola Indigo, but I would say that this doll is really, really good. I think if I liked her music, maybe I would want to get the doll, but I think that both of her outfits are really, really good. I think her performance outfit is super, super good. I really love this kind of like idea of like a corset-y lingerie kind of like outfit with this big long cloak. It just looks so, so good. And I also like her more casual like jeans and the kind of like leopard print top. I think the screening on this doll is so, so good. And I think she's really, really pretty. And I actually really like the fact that they've done like a blonde on the top and then black at the back. I think it looks really dynamic. So yeah, really strong doll. Once again, don't really know much about Lola Indigo. I bet she's great, but yeah, I didn't buy this doll, but I still think she's really, really good. Now at number 6, we have the Spring Fling Mean Girls collaboration. So I love these dolls. I think they're really, really cool. I think that I've actually watched Mean Girls, so I do have an attachment to it, and I think they've really done a great job translating the clothes from the films into these dolls. And I love the fact that we got a Janice. I think she looks really, really great. I think that the quality looks really, really good. I think that they've done such a good job on the second outfits. I think that Janice looks great. And I think across the board, I think these dolls are, in my opinion, the screenings are prettier than the first wave of Mean Girls releases. So I think that it's been an improvement. I'd probably say, ranking these 3, I'd say that Regina is probably my favourite, followed by Katie and then Janice, which kind of makes no sense considering that I do prefer more of like an edgier and gothier aesthetic. But I think the way they've translated Regina into this second wave just is really, really good. I love the second outfit, and I love the way that they've made the kind of like head brace thing. I just think it's great. So yeah, these are really, really good dolls. But once again, I don't have enough emotion to really, really want to buy them. So at number 5, I think a lot of people probably would have expected this to be lower, but I really like this doll. So at number 5, it is Frosty Knights Chloe. Now, I know she's only come out recently, but I just love the risk that the Bratz design team decided to make with this doll. I think the idea of doing that kind of like, that glass skin kind of like aesthetic was such a cool idea. Now, I love how I'm saying this about Bratz, but when Rainbow High were doing like really glossy and shiny faces, I absolutely hated it. But I think it makes sense with this doll. The only critique I really have personally, well, there are 2. I don't know why they've given her a red lip. I think that if they'd done more of a neutral, even if they'd done like a blue, I think that would have been a really cool idea to make it look like her lips. She was so cold that her lips had gone blue. And I also don't know why they ended up choosing this hairstyle. I don't have this doll, but I think this is the UV head sculpt. And I think you can tell when it is the UV head sculpt because the head is a little bit larger, but I'm going to give you a little token of information. And when you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. You will be able to tell if a Bratz doll has a UV head sculpt because the forehead will be large. It will be bigger than any other Bratz doll that you have. I'm pretty sure, I would bet my Vampirina from Bratzilla's that this is a UV head sculpt doll because her FOD is large and in charge, and that's coming from someone who has a large FOD as well, so I'm allowed to say it. But yeah, I do really like this doll. I love her dress. I love her makeup so much. I just think it's such a cool idea to do white eyeliner and mascara and this blue. She just looks so good. And her bag is cute. She looks like almost like someone who went to a gala or something and went out for a cigarette, and it just got really cold and she just became like an ice princess. And I love this doll. I do want to get this doll. Maybe my opinion will change once I get her, but from what I've seen and from the unboxings that I've seen, I think this doll is really stunning. And it's one of those things where there is an element with fashion where something being a bit peculiar and maybe even a little bit ugly makes it attractive. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's one of the the strong points about this doll. The designers were like, you know what, we're gonna take a risk. And I love it when doll lines take a risk. They've gone with a very specific aesthetic and gone, if you like it, you'll like it, and if you don't have to buy it. And I like it, and I think this is a really strong doll, and that is why she's number 5. So at number 4, another doll that I don't have, but I do actually feel a little bit of emotion towards and potentially would have bought, but I didn't, is the Jean Paul Gaultier Sasha. I really love this doll. I think she's so stunning. I think the makeup is so gorgeous, and I love the fact they've given her like platinum wavy blonde hair, and I love both of her outfits. I love the little sailor hat. The same thing with Amber from the Clueless doll. The little sailor hat is so camp and so cute. I can appreciate campness in fashion dolls, and I think this really does it right, because obviously Jean Paul Gaultier, a lot of his fragrances and things like that, there is this nautical kind of aesthetic to it, and I think that the way that it's translated onto Sasha is so good. I think my only critique really is I'm not a huge fan of the shoes, and also I don't like the way that the bra kind of sits on her in her second outfit. I think that could have been adjusted to make it look better, but I think that both of these outfits are really strong, and the accessories are so good, and I love her with the little sunglasses that she comes with. I think she looks so stunning. This is an amazing screening, and I just think that this Sasha is so strong and one of the best releases this year. Even though I've said all these really nice things about this doll, I never ended up buying her, and I think a lot of that is just to do with I'm not really a collector doll kind of person. I think the only collector dolls that actual collector dolls that I bought are the Corpse Bride Skeletor doll and the Bratziversary Jade, and I just think this doll is kind of mentally for me outside of my price point. I just can't visualize myself right now buying a doll. I think she's on Selfridges at the moment at £115. I can't visualize myself spending that amount of money on a doll, which is why I've never bought her. I just haven't unlocked that yet in my brain. I'm still kind of I'm a bargain hunter, guys. We know this. I just want bargains. I want everything as cheap as I can get it. And even though this is a really stunning doll, that door hasn't opened for me yet. I haven't allowed myself to spend that much money on a collector doll, so I just never bought her. But I do really like her, and I think she's super, super strong, and that is why she is at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is our last collector doll of this list and this year. It is Bratz EVERY Jade. Now, I have this doll. I actually haven't unboxed her yet, and I do want to. I just haven't done it yet, and I don't know why. I'm not an inbox collector, and I think she looks well better out of the box than she does in. But yeah, I think this is such a stunning doll, and in my opinion, it's probably the best collector doll. And I think that's just because there's a level of simplicity with this design, but there's also so much going on. And what I mean by that is that they've gone with a really, really simple dress, but there's so much detailing specifically in like this. The motif of this doll is like ribbons everywhere. So you've got ribbons all the way down the kind of like corset top, all the way down the train of the dress. You've got it on the heels, and I just love that. And I think it's really cute that they've kind of mirrored that in her hair. The hair kind of, even though there isn't ribbons in it, the shape that a braid makes kind of like mimics the shapes that like a corset ribbon detail makes. And I just think that that was really, really smart and really, really cool. And in a way, it's kind of like it's hair, but is it also just like ribbons falling out of her head? And also like the color of the hair was probably done to mimic the color of the ribbons that are all over this dress and the heels and everything like that. And I just think that the intention and the subtle detailing like that really sells me on this doll. And I really love the fact that they've just given her like a little veil to put on. I love her makeup so much. I really, really think that it's a lot more simplistic, and I think that that kind of just lends itself to like this idea of like minimalistic fashion and like futurism, and I just think she's great. I think this is a really, really strong doll, and I'm glad that I've got her, and at some point I'm going to get her out. But yeah, so that is why she is at number 3. Now at number 2 we have the Scorching Girlies. Now I could go on a very long-winded tangent about why I love this line, and I'm going to. So I love these girls. I think that the idea of this line is really, really cool. It's that 90s retro futurism that really, really like speaks to me. It reminds me of like when I was a child and there were films that I was watching, like The Matrix, like Charlie's Angels, like it's that idea of the 90s and what they thought the future was going to look like, and these girls really speak to that. I also love the kind of like headcanon that I came up with of these girls being like brand representatives, like influencers before that was really a thing, of being models that are just like, you give me a product to sell and I will sell it to the masses. And they've like done a brand deal with like F1 or some sort of like motorbike racing, which I don't know because I don't watch those kind of things, but they're brand representatives for like a motorbike company, and they're like, you want us to sell your product, we are going to sell it, and we're going to sell it really, really well. I've said it a couple of times in a couple of my different reviews, but like the fact these dolls' faces are so different and so experimental and so futuristic, but they all kind of like tie together and make sense and are cohesive. You've got Chloe with this like silver eyeliner and eyelashes. You've got Jade with this really understated like simple makeup without eyelashes. You've got Sasha with this like red, gorgeous, like really fierce makeup, but like once again it's really understated. And then you've got Yasmin with this really bright purple eyeshadow, and it's so good. The only critique I would really have of this line is that when you look at them together, they kind of look like they're also Power Rangers, which is really funny, but it's also kind of 90s, so it fits. But yeah, so Scorching, amazing line. And I also think that the price, you just can't argue with this price. Yes, they're not articulated properly, but the fashions look so detailed, and even when they haven't actually put detailing on them, the printing for the detail on this line makes sense, and it actually looks good, and it doesn't look cheap considering these are a budget line. Anyway, yeah, Scorching was at number 2, which you probably can tell now what is going to be at number 1. And number 1 is the Fashion Pixies. Now, I just think this line was such a step forward in the completely right direction. I think that reimagining an old line was such a good idea, and I really, really hope that it continues and that we get more of like the reimagined whatever it may be. I think that this line is super, super strong. I think it's really cohesive. It's really full of whimsy, and it's really bright and very different to a lot of the other stuff that the Bratz released this year. It's very much fantasy forward, and that's probably why it's my number one. You've got the wings, you've got the gorgeous makeup. This idea that they're all pixies, I just think is super, super cute, and I hope next year we see another kind of like fantasy themed line. I don't necessarily know what they could do, but something fantastical would be right up my alley. I think the makeup for this line is stunning. I think that the molds for the shoes, the choices for the fashion, the detailing on this line, there's just so much good. And I'd probably say my favorite is Lena, followed by Jade, followed by Yasmin, then Sasha, then Chloe. But I would say that all of these girls have great fashion. I really hope this line did well, because I would really love to see the designers be rewarded for how cool this line is. And once again, this was like a pretty, comparatively a lower price line, and you got so much quality. It's just a really, really good line, and I'm really, really, really happy with how it all turned out. And of course, Lena is definitely my favorite from this line. I'm obsessed with her. I think she's really good, and well, to be honest, all of them, they really tick all the boxes that you need for a doll line. And a Bratz line specifically, they've got the makeup, they've got the interesting hairstyles, they've got the quality in the clothes, you've got the interesting shoes. And I don't really know what else I could really say about the Pixies, to be completely honest. I think, considering I really love this line, I think I've been quite concise and to the point with this, because I've been thinking about what I was going to say about this line. But yeah, I think rightfully so, the Fashion Pixies come at number one, and I just really hope that going forward, reimaginings of other past lines becomes like a staple. And I hope the fantasy elements come through a bit more, because that's what really speaks to me. And even if you remove the wings, there is still some like whimsical fashion there that you can enjoy, even if you don't like the pixie vibe from it. So that is my ranking for all the dolls this year. Now, I think I'm just going to give you a little bit of like a final thoughts about what 2025 has had from the Bratz and what they've presented to us. Now, I think this has been a really, really strong year. When you think about it, there's only really been 14 dolls that have come out this year, and I think only maybe 5 of them are playline releases, and a lot of it was more like collector collaboration stuff. I really think that this has been a really great way to like kickstart Bratz being back in pop culture, and I just hope going forward that we kind of like get to see Bratz operate in a more like elevated and present way. And what I mean by that really is that in the UK, I'm not sure about what's going on in the US and other countries, but in the UK, Bratz aren't available on shelves. There's only been a couple of releases this year that have actually been on the shelves in like toy stores. So Smith's only stocked Going Out, the babies, and a couple of the Play Sports dolls, not all of them, just 2 of them. And that's pretty much been it. The Bratz section in the toy aisle is very small, and it's kind of dwindling at this point, because Going Out is obviously like from the beginning of this year. I just hope that in 2026 we're going to get some more media that's going to push Bratz into the forefront, because I feel like it's kind of like a staple thing now, and it probably has been for a while, but like having some sort of media, be it like an actual YouTube show or a TV show or tie-in movies, there needs to be some sort of presence that basically can like justify to toy companies why they should be on shelves and not just online. So I'm really hoping that we get some more stuff. I know that there's something coming with the Pop Stars line, and I'm really excited to see what that is. But I kind of hope that they do make like an actual like web series on YouTube. I know they do, but it's like a TikTok, really it's like shorts more than it is anything else. But it just really depends what they are wanting Bratz to be. I think from my perspective, they are releasing things for adults more than they are actually kids. I don't know if that's like a fair like comment to make, because I don't know. I don't know, but I would say that from my perspective, most of the releases this year to me have been speaking to the already existing fans of Bratz, and there's plenty of stuff that is released this year that I think would attract new fans. But yeah, I think it's been a really, really strong year for Bratz, and I'm just hoping that continuing into 2026 and onwards that we keep this momentum up. I just hope that they manage to figure out a way of making releases more readily available from their website internationally, or even just communicating about how these things are going to be released, because I think the thorn in the side of this year has been things just haven't been available, and the release schedule and windows have been really, really weird. And especially like as someone in the UK, I know I can count on Amazon, but I would love the experience of going into a toy store and going, I really want this doll, I'm going to pick it up in the store and I'm going to buy it. And yeah, that hasn't really been something that's been available yet for me. But fingers crossed that that happens in 2026. And hopefully we get some more media and we get some more exciting things going on with Bratz. There's been some questionable decisions this year, but I think for the most part, at least from my perspective, it's been an enjoyable year as a Bratz fan to see all these things coming and enjoying the quality and enjoying seeing the design team work with members of the Bratz community and just make some really, really good dolls that have really been killing it, in my opinion. So yeah, that's all I really have to say today. Let me know down below if you disagree with any of my opinions. Let me know which ones you didn't agree with, and let me know what your ranking is, because I'd love to know exactly how you rank these dolls and what your favorite was. I'd love to see what line really, really did it for you this year as well. So that's all I really have to say today. So all I can really say is thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for putting up with my metal mouth and learning to speak again. Hopefully all the spitting I've been doing this video hasn't appeared on camera, because that is going to be really embarrassing. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to get on with it. And we move, we're gonna make it, we're gonna get used to it, and I will learn to talk properly very, very soon. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, guys. Feel free to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys all in the next one.